My name is Hydo and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we're stepping into the land of the giants, where Storvald, frost giant Jarl, is the ruler and king. 7 mana for a giant with ward 3, which means if this spell would become the target of a spell or ability, counter it unless their control pays 3. Pretty solid, you know, nice bit of protection. It's like hexproof, but well, worse in every way. Other creatures you control have ward 3, which is, again, pretty goddamn good. Nice bit of protection against everything, which is solid. I like it. And when it enters the battlefield or attacks, choose one or both. Target creature has base power and toughness 7/7 until end of turn, or target creature has base power and toughness 1/1 until end of turn. And he's a big 7/7, so that's really nice. You know, you can turn one of your opponent's blockers into a 1/1, and turn your massive, well, your small little hamster-like creature into a 7/7. Really nice. Doesn't give any creature type sort of bonuses, but all around, a pretty cool card that I really like. It's a more casual card, and that's what I enjoy, you know. Allows us to build around things in slightly different ways. If you like these videos and the cards that I put out there, please do consider subscribing. Going to make one of these for every single legendary creature ever printed. And dear God, there's a lot of them. But we'll get through them eventually. So without further ado, let's have a look at my top 5. And at number 5, we have Realm Cloak Giant. And giants are such a cool tribe, you know. They all cost ridiculous amounts of mana. But I think it's something that we could really go down. 7 mana for a Vigilance 7/7, but then you can cast it from your hand for its cast-off spell thing. 5 mana for a Sorcery, destroy all non-giant creatures. Absolutely wonderful. A one-sided board wipe that later you can turn into a 7 mana 7/7 with Vigilance. It's everything you want. And if you ever see the, what are they called? The storybook frames for this card, looks amazing, especially in foil. To go along with this, we're playing around with giants. We've got Kalemna's Captain, 5 mana for a 5/5 with Vigilance. You can pay 7 for Monstrosity 3, which means if it's not monstrous, put 3/1 counters, and it gets an ability. When it becomes monstrous, exile all artifacts and enchantments. So we're playing green. A lot of our ramp is going to be land-based, you know, sorceries, instants that get us lands. So we're not going to lose out too big on this if we build the deck correctly. Then, because giants cost so much, we've got Tricks, the Sudden Tricks, the Sudden Storm, anyway, whatever the hell his name is. 5 mana for a 4/5 with Flash and Flying. Spells you cast with convert mana cost 5 or greater, cost 1 less to cast, and can't be countered. That can't be countered rider there is really nice. You know, if we're investing a lot of mana into some big spell, we don't want it countered, so this does loads of work. And it's also a bit of ramp, you know, making all of our big things cost less. Speaking of sorceries that get you lands, you know, we were talking about with Kalemna's Captain. Beanstalk Giant is a 7 mana giant that's a star, so its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. But you can cast it from your hand for 3 mana for its adventure. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Really nice. Puts it into exile, then you can cast it to make a big giant. Nice sort of casual card that I really enjoy. Then giants, you know, a lot of them cost a lot of mana, and they're not great, but we've got a subset of cards, changelings, that are giants in a way. Mirror Entity, 3 mana for a 1/1 with changeling, so it's every creature type everywhere. Pay X until end of turn. Creatures you control with base power get base power and toughness XX until end of turn. And gain all creature types, so everything becomes a giant. Wonderful. And this really plays around with what our commander's doing, you know, changing the power of toughness of other creatures. Really nice. Then a nice cheap giant here. 2 mana for a Masked Vandal to 1/3. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, exile target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. Nice bit of way of controlling the board state, and for a cheap mana cost as well. Really nice. This is the sort of card you play it out early, then you've got our commander, we attack, we make this into a 7/7. Nice big threat that we got out early on the board. Then we've got Merit of the Frost. 5 mana for a 0/0 that's a changeling, so it's whatever you want it to be. You may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a permanent you control, except it's legendary and snow in addition to its other types. And if it's a creature, it enters with 2/1/1 counters, and it's a changeling. So it just does everything. It's a giant. Look at this giant with this big giant horns. I really don't know what's happening anymore. Anyway, number 4, let's have a look. It's creatures that you want to protect, because giving everything ward 3 means that our opponent's removal, it's really going to be cumbersome for them. So let's play some high impact creatures. A Lighthouse Chronologist is the first one that came to mind. 2 mana for a 1/3, and it has the level up mechanic. So for a single blue at sorcery speed, we can put a level up counter on it. If it's levels 4 to 6, it becomes a 2/4. And then if it's level 7 and above, it's a 3/5. And we could stop the card there, having a, 9 mana 3/5? That's pretty goddamn good. But at the beginning of each end step, if it's not your turn, take an extra turn after this one. Absolutely phenomenal. You can pump all your mana into this. We're going to have a lot of ramp in here because all of our giants cost a lot. And then we're going to get turn after turn after turn. And thanks to Ward, Lighthouse Chronologist, it'll be nice and protected. And even if it's not protected, or, it's not been leveled up fully, we can get in with it using our commander's ability, make this into a 7/7, slam in for loads of damage. Then we've got Medimi the Ageless, 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer. When it deals combat damage to a player, take an extra turn after this one. So giving this ward 3, it has evasion, we can get in, and then there is the last line, which is it can't attack during extra turns, but we can get at least an extra turn every turn cycle, which is pretty goddamn good. And giving it ward, nice bit of effect there. Then we've got Time Stream Navigator, 2 mana for a 1/1. Oh, nice. Then it's got Ascend, so this could be a 7/7. Ooh, imagine that. Ascend, so if you control 10 or more opponents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. Then you can pay 4, tap it, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. Take an extra turn after this one. Activate this ability only if you have the City's Blessing. So another really high impact card, it generates a ton of value if you get to activate it. And giving our creatures ward is a great way of being able to activate them. And also, it's another 1/1 that could be a 7/7. Then we've got Emrakul, the Promised End. This doesn't allow us to take an extra turn, but this is a sort of creature that giving ward to, protecting it is really powerful. 13 mana for a 13/13. Costs 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. And when you cast it, gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. Oh, I love a Mindslaver. That is my favourite card ever. Absolutely fantastic. And then they get an extra turn after that one. Oh well. It does have flying, trample, and protection from instants, so it can't be targeted by an instant, but this allows us to give it sort of pseudo protection from sorceries and everything else. It can just be really, really powerful in keeping our big threats alive. Which brings me on to my number 3 pick. And at number 3, we've got other ways of protecting our creatures. Kira, Great Glass Spinner, 3 mana for a 2/2 Flying Spirit. Creature control have whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time each turn, counter that spell or ability. So this is just other ways to disincentivize our opponents from targeting. The interesting thing about Kira is it's not just opponents, it's any player targeting them with ability. So if you're getting in there for combat with our commander, we target a creature to make it into a 7/7. Kira says, nah, mate, we're not doing that. Stop. Do it again. So Kira does mess up with our game plan, but having that extra protection is really, really powerful. To go along with this, we've got another giant here in Unsettled Mariner. It's a white and a blue for a changeling, 2/2. Whenever you or opponent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, cast that spell or ability unless its control pays 1. So just a nice other tax. It's like a ward light. Really, really nice and, can work very, very well. Then we've got a slightly different take on this in Battle Mammoth. 5 mana for a 6/5 elephant with trample. Whenever opponent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Absolutely fantastic. And it has foretell, so you can set it aside in exile for 2 mana and then play it for a foretell cost on a later turn. Wonderful. This more than anything else will really disincentivize me from targeting things. I hate letting my opponents draw cards. So having this big elephant on the field can do a ton of damage. Then we've got Rain Academy Chancellor, 3 mana for a Wizard Legend 1/1. Whenever you or a permanent you control is the target of a spell or ability controlled by one of your opponents, you may draw a card. And if it is enchanted, you draw two cards. Really powerful, really cool. Does exactly what the Battle Mammoth does, except for it's a 1/1. And it can become a 7/7. Or a 1/1 if you choose to target it. But that's really, really cool. And, all those things are nice. But at number 2, we've got Krovak's Ascendant Hero. So why is Krovak in here? 6 mana for a 4/4. Other white creatures get +1/+1. Nice. Non-white creatures get -1/-1. Well, that might be the reason. So with our commander's ability, we can attack and make something into a 1/1. But we're not limited to just choosing our own things. We can choose our opponents. And if it happens to be a non-white creature, Krovak will make it into, we make it into a 1/1. Krovak will make it into a 0/0 and just kill the creature. Absolutely fantastic. You can use your commander's ability to remove creatures. Absolutely wonderful. I love it. It's just so, so cool. Then to go along with this, we've got another card very similar, Holy Light. 3 mana for an instant. Non-white creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. So this can turn whatever you want. You turn it into a 1/1. Then if it's non-white, so target non-white creatures with this. Non-white, it gets -1/-1. It gets killed. So cool. These cards, wonderful in this deck, and you wouldn't really use them anywhere else. Then, sorry about that. Then if we're turning things into 1/1s, Staff of Nin is a great card to use. 6 mana at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card. Nice, bit of value. Then you can tap it, deals 1 damage to any target. So each turn, turn something into a 1/1 and then kill it. And then Endbringer. This is what happens when Dave enters the game and, everyone just says, oh, I don't want to play anymore. 6 mana for a 5/5. Untap Endbringer during each other player's untap step. And you can tap it to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So you can turn something into a 1/1, ping it, and then you've got it back to ping more things or activate the other abilities. Compare colors, tap it, target creature can't attack or block this turn, or pay 2 colors, tap it, draw a card. Absolutely fantastic, can really generate a ton of value, and it works great with our commander's ability. Which brings me on to my number 1 pick, and at number 1, we've got Cowardice, a white bordered card. How utterly disgusting. 5 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, return that creature to its owner's hand. That's pretty goddamn cool because our commander's ability, we can use both of them and we can just target 2 of our opponent's cards. Or 2 of our own cards, return them, they've got into the battlefield effects, reuse them. Such a cool use for our commander's ability. And I've never even seen this card before. It's wonderful. The artwork's phenomenal. I love it. It just works so, so well. And it's even got a William Shakespeare quote on it. That's so, so good. I love it. To go along with this, Willbreaker is a great card. 5 mana for a 2/3. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes the target of a spell or ability you control, gain control of that creature for as long as you control Willbreaker. So as long as you can keep Willbreaker alive, you can go stealing all of your opponent's creatures, just target them with everything. Wonderful. Then we've got Dismiss into Dream, a great card. 7 mana for an enchantment. Each creature your opponents control is an illusion in addition to its other types, and has, when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. So using our commander, we can swing in, target 2 of our opponent's things. They have to sacrifice it. I don't care if they're indestructible. Get them off the field. Then a slightly, it's a worse in every way version of this. Crystalline Nautilus, 3 mana for a 4/4 enchantment creature. When it becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. But you can cast it for its bestow cost for 5 mana. So just go and put it on a creature. Enchanted creature gets +4/+4 and has, when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. So you can put this onto one of your opponent's creatures, then attack, target it, make it into a 1/1. This forces them to sacrifice that creature, and then you end up with a 4/4. Now that's just some sick value all around, isn't it? And those are my top 5 cards for this giant. What a behemoth of the game he is. I really enjoy him. There's a lot of interesting things you can do with him. And hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.